Welcome to our event today with China Admissions and Wellcee. So I also know that some of the people are going to be coming in on a rolling basis. So don't worry if you're joining a bit later or if you need to go out and come back in again, because this is also being recorded and will be posted onto our YouTube channel, China Admissions. So you'll be able to view it as many times as you need, or if you miss any information, you'll be able to find it there. And don't worry about missing anything, because that recording will be there, as well as all of our other live streams and videos. So let me get started with today's introduction. So today, this event is hosted by China Admissions in partnership with Wellcee, and we will be addressing one of the most common challenges faced by students aspiring to study in China, which is finding suitable rental accommodations with ease. As an employee of China Admissions, I have personally experienced the difficulties that come with searching for housing in China, especially for those who are not fluent in Chinese. But don't worry, because today we've come together to provide you with a comprehensive solution that will transform your housing search experience. China Admissions has long been committed to supporting international students in their academic pursuits in China, but we also understand that a comfortable and secure living environment is pivotal to your overall study experience. And that's why we've teamed up with Wellcee, which is a trusted rental platform renowned for its experience in connecting people with reliable and hassle-free accommodations throughout China. So, today, you can sit back, you can relax and prepare to embark on an exciting journey towards finding your perfect home in China. So with China Admissions and Wellcee by your side, we guarantee that the daunting task of renting will be transformed into a seamless and enjoyable process. Once again, a warm welcome to this event and to Yuhan from Wellcee for getting today started.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Last week. All right, I will share my screen now. Can you see it?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Saska, for organizing this event. My name is Yuhan, and I'm a co-founder of Wellcee, the international rental platform in China. And I will be sharing with you today some helpful aspects of renting apartment in China. And my husband is from Europe, and we just moved back to China last year. And being a local, I witnessed my husband as a foreigner, how he went through the whole rental process. So I would like to share more than a little bit rental process as well, and some tips associated with rental at the end of this presentation. So let's just get started. Well, with today, I will first introduce you to the landscape of Chinese rental market, so you will understand how the whole thing works, and about Wellcee, who we are and what we offer, and the rental price in China, basically what decides the rental price, and some student dorm information, and the things you need to consider before renting a flat, and the 4 steps of renting. And lastly, if you do get settled, how to make some social connections, as well as some apps you should prepare, get yourself familiar with before you even come to China. So let's look at the landscape of Chinese rental market. The first company is Lianjia here. Lianjia is a traditional rental estate company. They have a lot of offline stores. You will see many stores of Lianjia in big cities in China. What they do is to help tenants help landlords finding tenants, and then they charge agency fee from both parties. And the agency fee is typically 1 month rent. And then they saw opportunities of taking their service online. So they found another company. Basically, that's the online version of Lianjia. It's called Beike. But then soon they realized there are a lot of old buildings that are simply impossible to rent out. They're just too low quality, and no matter how much they try, they can't rent out these apartments. Therefore, they cannot make the agency fee. So they found a third company, Ziroom. What Ziroom does is to rent cheap apartments and does very basic furnishing, and then rent it out to individuals with a higher price. So these two companies charge agency fee, while this company charges service fee. They're essentially the same. And all these three companies, they belong to the same big company, Lianjia, or maybe now Beike. But they essentially is the same. Their business model based on agency fee. And the downside of these apartments is that they have pretty terrible decoration. And because they base their income on agency fee, they just want to make the deals. But there are other platforms that's not agency company, but rather platforms. For example, this one, Wuba. Wuba is a platform for anything. So for for you to look for jobs, for you to find apartments. The downside of Wuba is that they do not verify. So the platform does not verify the listings on the validity of the listing. So you have a lot of fake ones. And so agents will list apartments that's way above average, but with much cheaper price for clickbaits. And Anjike later bought Wuba, and Anjike is the same, but only focus on housing. These two platforms, their problem is that their posts are fake, and scams are very common there. So this is where Wellcee come in. We want to be a platform, which we are, but we do not allow agents to post on our platform. And we also verify our listing. So you cannot post fake information there. And once we find out, you're off. And then lastly, we also have English version available because our initial users are international users and also Chinese students who studied abroad. So this is where Wellcee stands. Wellcee is an international rental and social platform where now we have service in 22 cities in China, most likely cover the city that you will live in because we choose our city, basically the 22 biggest cities in China. And now we have more than 4 million registered users now. And we gained popularity among the local landlords very quickly last year because we have more tenants joining our website, and they noticed that we are the only platform that cares about the validity of their posting. And so now we're confident that you can find the apartments on Wellcee. So what decides the rental price in China then? First of all, the pricing each city is very, very different. You could basically categorize it into tier 1, tier 2, and other cities. The so-called tier 1 cities are cities like Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen. So these cities' rental price is much higher. But then within the city, if you want to live in the central location, then that's much more expensive than outer rings. I will go more in detail later. And so the cost associated with rent is usually the rent itself, and then agency fee or service fee if you rent through Ziroom or other agents. But if you rent through Wellcee, there's no agency fee. And then utilities, that includes electricity, gas, water, Wi-Fi, etc., and management fee. But this typically is included in the rent, but it might come up. Now with the payment time, it's typically paid quarterly or monthly. Monthly would be better. But there are other people who require maybe you pay every 2 months or even half a year. Yearly payment is very uncommon, but it's also possible. I personally would suggest that you try to negotiate with whoever is listing the apartment to pay monthly, because it's a very big amount. We can talk about that later as well. Now, so before you decide to rent an apartment yourself, if possible, get the student dorm first. But the tricky thing is many universities, they have limited space and they do not guarantee that you will get a room. So you have to contact the university as soon as you know, as soon as you're enrolled and registered. Why student dorm, if possible? Because student dorms are subsidized by the university, by the government. So it's typically less than 1/2 of the market price. So it's a lot cheaper, and the utilities are covered as well. And then you don't have to stress about finding an apartment yourself. But then how do you get it? There's no guarantee, unfortunately. I did some research. Each university is very different. So contact your school person as soon as possible. And there are people who are saying that if you have scholarship, that might increase your chance of getting the student dorm. And then if you tried everything, just leave it up to luck. But if you don't end up getting the student dorm, you can think about the downside of the dorms and to make yourself feel better. They're usually quite small. You might end up sharing one room or a bathroom with other people. There are also dorms that you have to share a bathroom with the whole floor, but it's quite rare. And also international student dorms are typically separated from the Chinese students. So if you're hoping to mix with the Chinese students in dorms and learn Chinese, that's uncommon. Now, things to consider before you rent apartments off campus yourself. That is to say, if you don't end up getting the dorm, and then you have to consider the location that you're going to live in, and then your budget and the apartment quality itself. Basically, it's to find the perfect balance between these three factors. I can tell you from experience, it's impossible to find a cheap apartment in the central location with a low budget. If you see something like that online that is too good to be true, it's usually too good to be true. So with your budget, if you're gonna rent a whole apartment instead of sharing one with some other people, so you will have to pay more. Take Shanghai, for example, a whole apartment, a whole single bedroom apartment, that is one bedroom, one bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room. On average, it costs about 6,000 RMB. That's like the lower end. So it's not going to be a luxurious apartment. 6,000 RMB, which is about 830 something euros, US dollars. And but if you would like to share with someone, for example, you take one bedroom in the shared 2-bedroom apartment, so you will share a kitchen, living room, and a bathroom, and that will cost 200 US dollars less. So you could consider share a bedroom, share an apartment with someone if you have lower budget. And the second one is location. So if you have to rent apartment in the center, a more central location, that will be more costly. And also flats that's closer to metro lines or metro stations, that will be more costly than the ones for a little further away. And of course, the flat quality itself, so the size and furnishing, typically bigger size and more rooms are going to be more expensive, which is understandable. And if you have more modern furnishing, that's also more expensive. So with these three things to consider, and then you can try to find a balance that you can accept. Now, let's look at the 4 steps of renting. The first step is to do some online browsing. This part is essential because internet is everywhere in China. We used to go to apartments compound and just look offline itself in the compound, and then you have a blackboard or something. That's not possible anymore. It's just not efficient enough, and you simply do not have that energy to do that. Everything is done online. So the first step is to look online, and you have to find out where your university is, and then you try to look on the map and decide the commuting time and the area that's acceptable to you. And then so you can start look online with the rent, location, apartment type, and transportation. All this information you can find online. And then once you have these options, and you can start talking with the people who are listing the apartments that you're interested in, and ask them to send photos. Typically, they already post photos or even videos, but you can ask them to give you a video room tour and to screen for more. And once you're interested, and you can make appointment for a house viewing, I suggest that you contact more people at this step. And then the second step is actually to go there and check the house offline. Each step I will talk more in detail. And then the third step is to sign a rental contract. I do not suggest that you skip this part because it's very essential. We'll talk about why. And then the last step, I'm sure, okay, with the last step, once you got the apartment, sign the contract, and you just have to make sure you pay the utility bills. And if needed, you can do your apartment decoration. And this part is incredibly cheap and easy in China. Oh, I cannot proceed. Okay. Step 1, browsing online with Wellcee. So once you download the Wellcee app, you will be able to see this is our front page. And here we have an option for you to switch to English. And we have 3 language options. And this is already English version. And then here you can select the city you're going to be in. So take Shanghai as example. You can go in, and this is all the apartments you're going to see. For example, this user, and this is the first 3 photos they posted. And some will post videos like this one. That's a video. And here you can input the keywords. For example, if you figure out your school address, or you figure out the neighborhood you want to live in, you can simply put the keywords here. I suggest that you figure out the Chinese address and just simply copy paste here. And you will, because most listings are listed in Chinese, mostly are still local Chinese users. So if you put the Chinese address here, you're more likely to get more results. But then of course, you can also select without searching. You can select the address, for example, district, you want to live in Jing'an or Huangpu, that's the central area of Shanghai. And you can also go into the type, which will include if it's a whole or shared apartment, and then the price range. You can all just do it here. And for example, if you're interested in this apartment, which is a service apartment, this one, based on my experience, you will see this is a whole apartment, and with 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. These are the metro lines it's close to, and you will see everything. And then you can start chatting with them, ask them the things that you haven't seen on this one, ask them when you can schedule for a house viewing, etc. So it's very simple. Now, there are some tips of using Wellcee. The first one is that you have to make a very genuine profile. So for example, this one, would be a good example. He posted a realistic picture of himself, and because you're gonna be a tenant for someone. If you have a more realistic profile, a genuine profile, people are more likely to respond to you if your profile seems trustworthy. And then the second tip is that you should make a lifestyle post, which is what this post is. So this Bill guy, he made a lifestyle post and he asked here, he basically listed his expectations. He was able to do that in Chinese. Maybe you can translate your expectations into Chinese and put it here. So more Chinese users will be able to see that. and describe yourself more in detail and describe your expectations and also your budget. And what you can see here is the comment section of his post. And because these people are listing their apartment on Wellcee, they're gonna check regularly and see if they can find tenants. They want to rent out as soon as possible as well. So some people are responding in Chinese and some are responding in English. And with these people, for example, if this is your post, you can just click on this profile and check out their apartments if it's suitable, and then contact them. So you will increase your chance of finding apartment. You can just passively wait as well. And the third tip is that I suggest you contact multiple users, because our users are personal users. They're not agents. They're not gonna, this is not full-time job. That they won't be waiting with their app, waiting for people to contact them like agents would. So they may not be able to respond to you as soon as agents would. You would increase the likelihood of getting response if you just contact more users. And for those who don't speak Chinese yet, you can also contact the ones who speak English. We have a lot of users with their listing description. They also put their English, English description there. That's a sign that they also speak English. There are even users on Wellcee that only post in English, even though they're local Chinese, because they want to screen out the ones who don't. Now, it's possible that you cannot find the suitable apartments or you want to compare more. I would also suggest using Zroom because they don't have fake posts like the other ones that I mentioned before. With Zroom, once you open their app, you will see English here. So you go there. That's the ones designed for expats. But with Zroom, I would suggest that you rent whole apartment instead of shared ones. Because with Zroom is an agent, it's a second landlord. If you rent a shared apartment, you don't get to decide who you're gonna live with. Zroom agents will decide. So you will be living with whoever they can find next. And then also with Zroom, you may have to, most likely you'll have to refurnish your apartment because the Zroom furnishing is very basic and it's like a standard, very industrial style. There are people who say it looks like IKEA threw up on them, but unless you're okay with it. And then the last option is that, which is what I went through with Zroom, which is to save the online contract in PDF. So once you sign a contract with Zroom, you will have an online contract saved in your app, but they can change this contract without you ever noticing. So you have to save one once you sign the contract. Now, step 2, house viewing. Suppose you made contact with people either on Wellcee or through WeChat, and then you can actually go there and look for the house yourself, which you have to. I do not suggest that you skip house viewing and then just pay online. It's very risky because the actual conditions of the flat typically are different. So people typically use pictures that's way more flattering than the real thing. Even the ones who are posting real pictures, you still need to figure out, for example, there are things you cannot see through pictures, things like lighting and noise. So when you're there, I suggest that you check out the lighting during the day and see if it's noisy, check out the neighborhood. And in China, make sure that your room is facing south. I made that mistake. My room is not facing south and it's very dark during the day. I have to turn the light on most of the time. Also with the house viewing step, you get to meet your future landlord or your future flatmate, roommate. This is a good chance for you to see who are going to be in contact with you in the future when you have, for example, you want to fix something. And if you have a feeling that this person is kind of sketchy, that's a warning sign. And when you're there, I also suggest that you go to the nearest metro station and see if that public transportation is something you would like to do regularly on a daily basis, if it's as close to the metro as they claim to be. So this is the house viewing part. And then if you do decide to take one, after you compare several options, you're ready to sign a rental contract. Now, the first step I would suggest is that you bring a friend with a local know-how. So it could be a local friend who speaks English, or an expert friend who has a lot of local experience, because the contract part is quite detailed, and it's a lot of, that's where also scams come up. So just bring a friend and make sure that you understand what's in the contract. And so a friend can translate that for you. And then the second step is that because you're going to sign a contract with someone, whoever's there, check their identity. Just require the identity information of the leaseholder. So you should bring your passport copy, and also require them to show you their ID or passport copy. So you should each other exchange the ID information. And I would also suggest that you see, if they're not the landlord, you have to see that they're the real leaseholder. For example, if they're the second landlord, you have to ask them, can I see your rental contract with the real landowner? Because if they don't have the right to rent out the place, you're going to be in trouble later with the real landlord. But if they're an agency company, you have to require their copy as the agent as well. So you need to know this agent actually has the right to represent the landlord. So these things would be very tricky if you're there and you don't speak the language and you don't have a friend with you. And the third step is to state all the costs in the contract. So this is to avoid unreasonable additional costs in the future. For example, if you are going to pay for the utilities, just write that in the contract. Whatever fee that you're going to pay, just put that in the contract, and make a statement that anything that's outside of the contract, you will not pay. This is quite standard. And the fourth one is to settle for payment method. Like I mentioned before, you might be expected to pay quarterly or every half a year, or even yearly. That's just too much at once. So you could suggest to the landlord or the agency company that you want to pay monthly. So if you were to pay monthly with your first payment, you would be paying 1 month rent plus the deposit, plus agency fee, if any, and then that'll be it. But if you pay quarterly with your first payment, you will be paying 3 months rent plus deposit. That's a big amount. So try to pay monthly if possible. Now, the last step is to make sure when you're signing the contract, make sure to ask your landlord or the agents to tell you where you can pay for your utilities later. Now in China, it's very convenient. If you have WeChat or Alipay, you can just pay it there, but you have to insert a number. So basically a code in the payment, that's your account. So ask them to insert that code for you, and you can just pay every month afterwards. It will be very easy. And then the last part. So once you sign the contract, you get the apartment, you can easily decorate your flat. So if you found an apartment, everything's nice, but the decoration is kind of so-so, you don't have to spend more money on rent every month just to get one that looks like it's better furnished. You can do it yourself because it's very cheap and very easy here. You can basically get everything on Taobao. And I put a picture here that's the apartment that I got. And that's how it looked like before. And this is how it looks like now. It's not amazing, but I only spent $700 on refurnishing. And with Taobao, I bought everything here, including the couch. This couch is brand new. It was about $200. And that was the most expensive purchasing even. And I got a fridge for about $160. So everything included was $700. And so you don't have to spend more rent every month just for a already furnished apartment. Now, also with Taobao, once you buy stuff, the stuff will be delivered to your address within 3 days of purchasing. And the delivery fee is also included in the product price. You can just ignore it. And so if you are afraid of this is guaranteed. It's super easy, personal experience. Now, if you have settled here in China and you want to find some friends and get connected, Wellcee can help you with that too, because we're not just a rental platform. We also want to share, we also want to encourage people to make connections offline. So with the lifestyle section, and like I mentioned before, you can post your requirements of apartments here, like these people are, and what you're looking for. But you can post people and post that you want to find friends, or you want to go somewhere and ask if someone's interested to show you around. And don't be shy to ask. And a lot of people here are very interested in making international friends. And a lot of Wellcee users do speak English. And we have another section, which is swap and sell. Initially, because a lot of people are moving away, we're a rental platform and they're moving in. So they have a lot of home appliances and they cannot take away. So we want to encourage people to use secondhand stuff. And then we created this secondhand market. And later we found out that a lot of pets are looking for adoption and even foster homes. So if you're too shy to look for human friends here, you can also look for this cat or dog friends here. Of course, if you're only here for studying, you can also be a foster mom or foster dad. We want to encourage that as well. And these are the furry friends now looking for forever home. And the last part, explore, that's our offline activities. Wellcee organizes regular offline activities to encourage young people and get together and make connections. And these sections quite popular among our users. And we noticed that a lot of people moving to the new city, making friends with strangers is quite difficult. So once you're settled, you can check out these sections as well. Now, this is not related to renting, but it will be very helpful, which is the apps you will need these apps in China. The first one is WeChat. I suggest you already download this WeChat because that's the super app in China. You can use it for everything. The first one is for communication. So everyone's on WeChat. You can't reach people through email or text message anymore in China. It's WeChat. And with WeChat, you can pay for anything you see on the street. And so for phone bills, utility, and everything, you can pay on WeChat. You can also recharge your phone bill on WeChat and also scan the yellow bikes. So we have shared bikes in the city everywhere. With WeChat, you can scan the yellow ones. They're very cheap. The second one is Didi. That's the taxi app. You can order a taxi on Didi and just wait there. And the third one is Alipay. Now, Alipay is very similar with WeChat, but Alipay is not a communication tool. It's mainly for payment. So you can also use Alipay for everything on the street, including utility payment and phone bill, and also scan the blue bikes. So this one's for yellow bikes. This one is for the blue bikes. I suggest that you get this one settled as well, because you can already do that in your own country. I think you can upload your passport information on Alipay and get your real name verified while you still have some time, because once you're in China, everything is a little bit in a hurry, and you do the real name verification. It's a bit stressful. We went through that here. With WeChat, you will need a Chinese bank account before you can get your real name verified on this platform. Taobao is already introduced you to Taobao. It's everything, online shopping, anything you can think of. And then the last one is Meituan. There's a competitor, which is Ele.me, it's the same. So it's for food delivery. You can order any food on Meituan, or also groceries. So these 5 apps you will most likely need in China. So I cannot cover every detail about renting or other things you have to watch out here. But I created a WeChat group, and you can scan this QR code as specifically for China admission students. And because through WeChat, you can reach me quite fast, and then you can scan this QR code, but this one expires in 1 week. It expires on June 22nd. So if it expires, you just search this number on WeChat, and then I will invite you to this group. If you have anything related to, could be renting, could be your, for example, the apps you don't know how to navigate through, anything that I know, I'm happy to answer your questions. Of course, you can also join our Facebook groups. With Facebook, there are more experts in the group. There are a lot of members, but it's a lot less active because Facebook is banned here. So I suggest that you join this group if you have any questions. Before that, I want to remind you guys, with all these apps, you will need a Chinese phone number to register. So especially for Taobao and Meituan. So once you get in China, make sure that you just ask a friend to come with you, bring your passport, and go to the phone company and get a Chinese phone number. And that will help you register all these apps. And in China, everything is done through apps. And my final question for you guys, because right now, we're not so sure if our website is still necessary. Because from what I know, international users are not very keen on using apps. Rather, you guys prefer a website. So I want to ask, website versus app, which one do you prefer and why? You can leave your comment here in the comment section, and then maybe tell me why as well. So I will base my decision on your suggestions. And that would be all.
Great, thank you so much.
There are some questions.
Yes, so thank you so much for hosting this event and for introducing Wellcee, and not even just introducing Wellcee, but going above and beyond and going over the particular struggles that foreign people would have, or most people would have, with renting, and especially if people are trying to find an option when they're not in China yet. Some of the advice that you've given is very, very helpful. The Taobao advice as well is great. And then also about the contracts and making sure you get the IDs, all very helpful as well. So yes, we do have a couple of questions, and we'll dive into those just in a little bit. So just a small thing that I would just like to add for some international students, or even if you're not a student and you're going to China for work reasons, or for whatever reason it is that you're going to China. I have also had to find accommodation in China before, and it was very challenging. And if you don't, you can maybe learn from some of the common mistakes that foreigners make. But one of the things that might be a little bit different from your home country or renting in another country is when you are renting in China as a foreigner, you need to, after you've signed your contract, you need to go to the local police station, and you need to register there. And it's not just any police station, it has to be a very specific allocated station in your area. So just keep in mind that they're going to require certain documents. They're going to require, first of all, for you to sign a couple of documents. You're going to have to bring your agreement and also a copy of your landlord's ID, Chinese ID. So you are going to have to get that. And you have to do it within a specific amount of time of starting there. So this is something that is very important. So just keep this in mind, because some people make the mistake of signing a contract while they're outside of the country, and maybe they sign with someone that's not really very trusted landlord, and they run into a lot of problems because now they're in a contract with someone and they need to actually get a different place so that they can register with the police. So just keep this in mind. What I recommend, my best advice that I can give for if you're going to rent in China, is to first, just for maybe 1 week, just rent or make a booking with a hotel, because the hotel will do the registration for you for that short period of time that you're there. So do that. And then for that week, while you're staying in the hotel, get a Chinese friend to come with you to go look at different listings. And then also make sure to ask the landlord so that he knows that you're going to have to register at the police station, and ask him which police station it is, because it can be a very confusing time to try and find all this information. So just to make this easier for yourself, if you're worried about the cost of a hotel, personally, I think the 7-day inn is fine for foreigners to stay for maybe a week. And it's also quite affordable. It would be about 20 to 25 US dollars a day. So quite affordable, while you are making sure that you get the correct apartment or living space for you. So just keep this in mind, that there is a little bit of an extra step for foreigners when you're applying for your apartment. So let's go on to some of the questions that we have. Okay. So I would like to ask about the deposit. Is there a standard deposit amount, or is this dependent on the landlord that you would be renting from?
Good one. Well, the deposit in China is typically 1 month rent. So if your rent is 6,000 RMB, then the deposit is 6,000 as well. But if you search on Wellcee, you will also notice that some deposits are different. Some people require that you pay 2 months rent as deposit. There are landlords who are they're very worried about you might do some damage to their expensive furnishing, and they might be asking for like 2 months rent rather than 1 month rent. So it's also individual dependent, but the standard would be 1 month rent.
Okay,
as
great.
Deposit.
Great. Yes, I think that is fairly common for it to be either 2 months or 1 month. Great. And is it very difficult to get your deposit back at the end of the rental contract? Because I know certain countries it can be very difficult to get your deposit back.
Yes. Well, it's not difficult, but that is also the part things can go wrong very often. So what I suggest that when you sign the contract, you have to make sure to specify in the contract what would account for breaking the contract, because the deposit is there so that you don't break the contract. For example, if you sign the lease for a year, but then you need to move out before the contract ends, that accounts for breaking the contract. So what you can do when it comes to that, you can also ask the landlord to put in the contract, if you have to end the lease before the contract term, as long as you find a replacement, you will still get the deposit back, which I strongly suggest you doing, because it's very difficult to fulfill the contract term exactly as you signed. Things change, and so leave some room for yourself for later. And put that in the contract and say, yeah, if you find a replacement, you get your deposit back. Also,
Yes.
when you do refurnishing, like ask the landlord, can you nail stuff onto the wall, or you have to glue it onto the wall, as specific as possible. Basically specify the terms, how you can get your deposit back, because it's not a small amount.
Yes, yes, that's really, really good advice. And an extra thing that I would just like to add for some students is to don't, some people, when they get the contract, they're so excited that they don't read the contract, they just sign it immediately. Take your time, take a day if you need to. If you have a Chinese friend to go over it and explain it to you, that's great. You can ask for some changes to be made in the contract as well. For example, sometimes a landlord might not put in the contract that, like, if the washing machine breaks, that they'll get a different washing machine. But maybe the washing machine is about to break and then it's not in the contract and you have to pay for a new washing machine. So small things like that to add them into the contract. And if you can get a digital contract, then you can also put it into Google Translate or Baidu Translate, and you'll be able to get also an idea and read by yourself as well. So just to add that as well. And so in terms of renting the long-term or short-term, what is if people are interested in renting short-term, what is the shortest term that they could rent?
Well, on Wellcee, the short-term options are actually quite limited. Wellcee is mainly a long-term, but if you search on Wellcee, you can also choose short-term, and you just have a lot less options. Because with short-term, it's a lot more trouble for the landlord. They have to go there and for you to check out, and also don't want to have time in between where they don't have that income. So with short-term, it's a little more tricky, and typically at the very least 6 months. So shorter than that, you will have a lot more difficulty. And I would say 1 year contract is very, very standard. And if you say, I want to sign a 2-year contract, the landlord would be more than happy to.
So so just another thing for the students to consider is if you're planning to study in China, if you, like Yuhan said, with that you should first consider a student dorm, because they are subsidized and they can be quite cheap and very good quality. Just keep in mind that these can sometimes be quite limited. So it's usually first come, first serve, and also degree students will get priority over non-degree students. So a lot of students go to China to do a short-term language program for 6 months or for 1 year, or they may be doing a foundation program for 1 year, and that would mean that they're not a degree student. So a lot of universities would unfortunately not have accommodation available on campus. So this is a really good way, if you're doing a short-term language program, to or a winter course or a summer course, to take a look at Wellcee as well. Yes. Okay. And then what are some of the documents that you should bring if you're planning on signing the contract? That as a foreigner, what are some like documents they should have?
Well, what will be on the contract typically will be your real name. So your passport name and your passport number, and you should bring a passport copy with you. And also better a Chinese phone number, so in emergencies they can contact you. That's the standard. So vice versa for the landlord, they also have to input that information as well.
Yes, definitely. Okay, great. And then someone was asking about Chongqing. Is it possible if Wellcee is available in Chongqing specifically?
Yes. Luckily we are.
Great. So you guys are available in most of the major cities then?
Yes. Yeah. I highly doubt the students will go to the cities where we don't have service yet.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
The majority of...
One thing to add.
Continue.
Oh, yeah. One thing to add about the students who are coming for, let's say, 6 months or even shorter. So you can look on Wellcee, because on Wellcee there are people who are looking for roommates. So they themselves are not landlords. They're the ones who rented, let's say, a whole apartment, like a bedroom apartment, and sublet one room. So in which case you are much more likely to stay there with a flexible time. So you can just assign a contract with someone who is looking for a roommate, or even someone who signed, let's say, a year or 2-year contract, but they cannot fulfill the last 6 months or 4 months, and you just have to fulfill the part that they need to fulfill. So it could be any like 4-5 months. And if you want to re-sign a contract with the landlord after that, you can do it. But there are options, like short-term options like that, when people sublet or simply are looking for a room.
Great. And we have a question here. Is it possible to rent near the university that they want to study? So a university in a major city?
Yeah, it is. And take Shanghai as example. Shanghai has this major university area, which is Songjiang district. And in Songjiang district, there are so many universities, but Songjiang is very far away from the city center. So not only you can find apartments there, they're also very cheap. And some apartments are like 1/3 of the price of the city center. I currently live in Shanghai in the very center location, and I'm close to another university, which is Fudan University, and that's more expensive because it's in the center area. But yes, it's apartments are not organized around university or away from university. It's kind of independent.
Yes, I would also, I studied in Shenzhen University, and when I was trying to rent, you also need to keep into account that it's usually if the university is not really in the center, you can get some cheaper apartments. However, Tencent was right next to Shenzhen University. So the Tencent headquarters was there, which means that lots of people that are workers at Tencent want to rent apartments close to that area. So therefore the rent was very expensive. So just make sure, like, you might be very tempted to find accommodation right next to the university, but also keep in mind, if you're going to have a major company like Tencent there, the prices are going to be much more expensive than if you were just maybe a couple of metro stops away from that, then it might be a lot cheaper. Or maybe you can also just be in the same district and just take a bus that goes directly to the university instead. So you might have maybe 30 minutes of commuting to get to the university, but your accommodation will be much, much cheaper.
Yeah, that's true. And also with the transportation, in China, you have city bikes everywhere, the blue ones, the yellow ones, and it costs $4 a month. You can buy a monthly membership. And with the bike, you have a lot more flexibility. You should factor that in when you're looking for an apartment.
Yes, that's really good advice. There's so much public transportation options. And for a lot of the students that were watching this, they might be in certain countries where public transportation is not normal. So they might be considering that they might have to walk everywhere. That's not necessarily the case. You have the metro available, you have buses available. They're available every 3 minutes. So it's very easy to use. You have bikes available. The Didi, which is like an Uber in China, is also very cheap as well. And then even the taxis are also quite cheap. So just keep this in mind that there's so many options for you. So keep this in mind before you rush into a very expensive, bad quality apartment just because of the location. So thank you so much for joining today, and I'm very excited to see the responses that we're going to get regarding Wellcee and how much it's going to help students as well with their search process. And then we'll also keep a lookout for the answers that we get regarding if students are interested in an app or if they're interested in the website. I think that the app is, for me personally, I would vote for app as well, because like you said, most people in China use apps, and if you're going to go to China, you might as well have an app.
Yeah, we have more options, like the features are more complete on our app. So we're not very sure if we could just abandon the website altogether. So please leave a comment, and so I have some idea. I will also send the PDF version to our colleagues in China admissions, and so she will send you guys the PDF version, and you can also look at the notes afterwards.
Great. Yes. So this is for anyone that has joined late or wants to refer this to a friend or just keep this on hand for when they arrive in China. This is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, China Admissions. So if you want to find it, just type in China Admissions, you'll find it, and you'll find our video postings there. And the PDF will be a document listed underneath the video in the description. So everything's going to be very easy to find. So don't worry about that. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you for all the effort that you've put in. It's been really interesting.
Thank you. Thank you guys as well. And also be sure to add to the WeChat groups. And so if you have problems later, like I said, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
And thank you to everyone who has joined. So everyone have a great day or morning or evening. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.